In this video, we're going to take a look at a blue ink by Akkerman, their number 9. Now, as always, there's timestamps down below so you can skip around, but if you've got the time, I'd appreciate you checking out the entire video. Also, down in the description is a link to the blue ink playlist, so if you wanted to see more, you could find that there. I'm an ink guy, and let's get into the first writing sample done on 90 GSM Clairfontaine. No bleeding, no ghosting. We have no feather, no spread. We do see some shading a little bit in the stub and a little bit in the extra fine, spots that are darker in the medium. Now the extra fine and medium are the same tone, both a little lighter than the stub. Extra fine took 8 seconds to dry while the medium took 17. Scrubby for both show good color variation, and it's definitely there in the writing. And a smear test, you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. To have a range of experience with this ink, all of the writing samples are done with a Jinhao 159 with a 1.1 stub, a Jinhao X450 with a medium, and a Jinhao X750 with an extra fine. Then a Conklin word gauge with a fine nib was inked up, used for a day, and used to take the notes for this video. The next writing sample is done on 52 GSM Tomoe River. No bleeding, no ghosting. We have no feather, no spread, no shading in the stub, no shading in the extra fine, but the medium is showing some much darker spots throughout some of its writing. The extra fine and the medium, or the extra fine's a little lighter than the medium, and the medium's a little lighter than the stub. The extra fine took 11 seconds to dry, while the medium took 31. Scrubby for both do show a tiny bit of color variation, though it really shows itself in the medium, and a smear test I do not think you could recover if you smeared while you were writing. I agree with Vita. There's a lot to learn by doing multiple chromatographies. The one on the left is done the way it's supposed to be done. A line of ink is put down, and then it's put into water for 10 to 15 seconds. And this was very interesting to me because it writes very much as a blue, but what we see is purple starting it out. Now this purple immediately forms a line on the bottom showing that it's bonding very quickly. The rest of the purple pushes its way up, and then we get a very bright kind of highlighter turquoise at the top. Now the one on the right is let dry for 10 minutes before it's dunked in the water, and pretty much it looks the same, showing that even after 10 minutes, not more of this purple's bonding, but it does give the idea that that purple may be a little bit more of a resistant tone. The next writing sample is done on 80 GSM Rhodia dot pad. No bleeding, no ghosting. We have no feather, no spread. We have some shading going on in the stub. You see the K's are much darker than the rest of Akkerman. We do get shading in the extra fine in that you get quite a few darker spots. Same with the medium. It shades very nice all the way around. Now the extra fine's the lightest tone on the page. Medium's a bit darker than that, and the stub is a bit darker than the medium. Extra fine took 7 seconds to dry, while the medium took 11. Scrubby for both show good color variation. We do get good shading in the writing. And a smear test, you stand a good chance of recovery if you smear while you're writing. Resistance tests are done to see how this ink could be expected to perform on a page, and more importantly, how hard it may be to clean from your pen. The smear is allowed to dry for 3 days before testing. Looking at the highlighter, I would not use this in a note-taking situation because that looks like a lot of blowout that's occurring there in the lowercase h, and I'm very risk-averse. Now, water's lifting all the darkest tones and leaving that purple that we saw in the chromatography. Pen flush is doing everything that water did, and really not a whole lot more. Now, the 1/3 bleach solution destroys this ink. You're not going to need 1/3 bleach solution to clean this from your pen. It only took water for me to do it. The next writing sample is done on monokaki paper. No bleeding, no ghosting. We have no feather, no spread. We have some shading in the stub. We have light shading in the extra fine. We do get some shading throughout the medium, so it shades well throughout all of the pens. The extra fine is by far the lightest tone on the page. Medium's much darker than the extra fine, and the stub just a little bit darker than the medium. Extra fine took 6 seconds to dry, while the medium took 9. Scrubby for both give good color variation. It's definitely there in the writing. And the smear test, you do stand a chance of recovering if you smear while you're writing. For the inks tested, the average viscosity was 2.5, with the realm of normal being from 2.1 to 2.9. Akkerman's number 9 has a viscosity of 1.99, meaning this is a wet ink. If you're interested in how the viscosity test and all that's done, there's a link to that video down in the description. The next writing sample is done on TWSBI notebook paper. No bleeding, no ghosting. We have no feather, no spread, no shading in the writing. Now the extra fine is a little bit lighter than the stub, while the medium is a bit darker than the stub. The extra fine took 7 seconds to dry, while the medium took 10. Scrubby for both do show some color variation, but we're really not getting it much in the writing. And the smear test, you'd still stand a slim chance of recovery if you smear while you're writing. For the inks tested, the average dry time was 17 seconds, with the realm of normal being from 13 to 21 seconds. Akkerman's number 9 has an average dry time of 14 seconds, meaning it's normal. The last writing sample is done on Moji paper. No bleeding, no ghosting. We have no feather, no spread, no shading. I say no shading, the extra fine actually does show a couple of darker spots, and the medium shows 1 or 2 lighter spots, so I guess yes, it has it. It just escaped me initially, but there's none in the stub. Now the extra fine is lighter than the stub, and the medium is darker than the stub. Extra fine took 6 seconds to dry, while medium took 9. Scrubby for both do show some color variation. Shows much better in the extra fine, but I think it shows better in the medium writing. Smear test says you could likely recover if you smeared while you were writing. Instead of finding inks that look like Akkerman's number 9, I'd prefer to find an ink that complements its color on the page. I decided to go with a red ink by Colorverse, their Mars Curiosity. If you'd prefer a different complement color, then down in the description are links to those playlists. So what do I think of Akkerman's number 9? This does lighten up as it dries, so it won't stay as dark as you see the writing right now. It has good shading and won't be confused for other blues you might find in the office. It's nice to conform to blue ink, but do it in a way that does stand out as different. So what nib and pen are going to give the best writing experience with this ink? I think the best color and shading came from a medium flow fine. Now you got really good color that predominantly showed more of the dark and less of the shading, though the shading was still there, with a medium nib. So you get to decide if you want more of the light with some more shading or more of the dark with less shading based on a medium fine or medium flow medium. I hope you got something out of this video, and in the next video, we're going to take a look at Noodler's Bad Black Moccasin.